Hi there, Chris Rowe here with the Gathering for Open Agricultural Technology. I am going to be showing you how to set up a GrovePi using Node-RED to collect sensor data in FarmOS. So you can see here I've got a tutorial, but I just wanted to run through this and show you how it worked. So we will be needing a Raspberry Pi, and got one of those here. This is a Raspberry Pi 3, so it's got Wi-Fi built in. Otherwise you'll need a Wi-Fi dongle. This is the GrovePi by Dexter Industries. It's got a bunch of different kinds of inputs using the same 4-pin plug. And then we've got the GrovePi temperature and humidity sensor, V1.2 in this case, with the same kind of GrovePi plug. We've got power, just regular USB, micro USB for the Raspberry Pi, and then an Ethernet cable here just for the setup process to get things going. So just following along here, first step is to set up Raspbian for robots. This is the Dexter Industries distro, and this, as this says here, this should download shortly. In my case, I actually already have this downloaded, so I'm not going to do it again. I'm using, of note here, the I guess it's October 5th from 2017 version. Next thing you'll need is Etcher. Again, I'm not going to go into how to install this. I've already got it installed, but it's pretty simple, cross-platform. And basically all you do is open up Etcher, and you can then select which image you want to get. So I've got mine in the downloads folder, and here's the 10.5 from 2017 version. And then the other thing I forgot to get out is an SD card. So let me go grab one of those. Okay, I am back. I've got a micro SD card here, and in my case I need an adapter to plug it into my computer. Stick it in the adapter and plug it in, and it should just show up right here in, oh, well, I didn't need that to open. In this case, this actually has a image already on it, but I'm going to reinstall it. Oh. Yep, so 16 gigabyte, you just want to make sure that that's what you actually want to overwrite, because we're about to flash it. So you just click there, and it will go through the process, flash the image, and then verify it. And depending on the speed of your computer, that can take a little while. It gives you an estimate here, 6 minutes. So I will be back when that is done. Okay, so we're almost done validating here. Just a couple more seconds. And it's done. It has unmounted, and we can just eject it here. And go back to our tutorial. So at this point, we can basically just start setting up the actual device. So just take this, plug it on here, and those just line up on the end. The Raspberry Pi's got more pins, but that's okay. Plug in the Ethernet for configuration. Plug in the sensor, and I have been using either pin 7 or 8. I'll go with 7 this time. But any of these ones that start with D for digital will work. So there's several of them over here, D2, 3, 4. But not, these ones are analog, so you don't want to use those. Here's 5 and 6. And then these are I2C, which you don't want to use either. So once you got all those plugged in, you can just plug in the power and give it a little time to boot up. And we can, while we're waiting, usually you don't have to wait too long, but basically this URL dex.local should start working as soon as the Raspberry Pi boots up. So while we're waiting for that, we'll just look here at the next set of instructions. We're really just going to set up the Wi-Fi. There's a couple different ways of doing that. One's through the GUI, and the other we could have done just right on the SD card by editing a configuration file, but we'll do the web or the desktop version this time. Okay, so just have to remember to put the SD card in here first, otherwise it won't do anything. And power it up, and you should see flashing light. That's a good sign. This is a green activity light. And you should also see some activity on the Ethernet. That's another good sign. So if you give it, 30 seconds or a minute or something like that, and go back over here. Let's just start from scratch. Then you should get this. So you've got two different connectivity options. You can load the desktop via VNC or go to the terminal. We're going to start with VNC. You can see down here it said the password was robots1234. That's the default password for everything on Dexter or the Raspberry Pi robots. And then since we don't have Wi-Fi set up, you don't see that up here, but you do see this icon, Wi-Fi setup. So if you just say scan, you can scan for networks. I'll connect to this one just to show that how you enter a password. This is the PSK is the password field. Just say add and close that. And then I think you have to press connect. You should get a IP address there. There you go. Now you can see up here that we are connected. So I can unplug the Ethernet cable, and I will lose this connection here. That won't work anymore, but if I just go back to dex.local, it'll find it, and we can reconnect, and this time we're connected over the Wi-Fi. Robots 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a bunch of stuff you can do here if you want to, just like you would directly on a Raspberry Pi. You can look at Node-RED, in fact, and Scratch and Python, whatever you want to do. But we're actually going to log in via the real terminal, just because it's a little bit more robust in terms of running the next script and copying and pasting. So just SSH as the Pi user. Let me make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. So there's the Pi user. And then again, we can just do dex.local. And our password is robots1234 again. Now we're on the command line. And there should only be essentially one thing that we want to do here. That is to install a better version of Node-RED, basically. So this command, bash curl master, looks like it's getting turned into a link, which is not great. But if we click on this first link here, we'll see what it's actually supposed to be. Copy that and go back to our terminal. Still getting used to this whole screen recording setup. Okay, so we're going to say yes. We want to do a whole bunch of stuff. This is going to do a whole bunch of stuff. It'll list it later. But yeah, we're going to install the Pi specific nodes. That lets us work with some of the Raspberry Pi pins and various other things. So basically the default Raspbian distribution comes with Node-RED, but it's a relatively old one, and it also doesn't come with the latest version of Node.js or the npm installer. So both of those are, well, at least the npm installer is required for installing contributed nodes in Node-RED. So this can take a while. You know, maybe, as it says, 20 to 30 minutes. Slow. Again, I will let this do its thing and come back when it's done. Okay, we are back, and the Node-RED script has finished running. It's done all its great little tasks that help everything work the way that you want it to. So we can close the terminal. And at this point, we are basically at step 6. And the one thing that we want to do, before we close the terminal, is just make sure that Node-RED will start up automatically. Ignore that. So if we just paste in that command, that will add Node-RED service to start automatically on boot. So we will unplug the Raspberry Pi, give it a couple seconds to power down, and plug it back in. And that will test that our restart script worked and that our install of Node-RED worked. So never quite sure how long this takes to start up, but you know, give it a little time. So this is step 7. And we're also testing that it's working on Wi-Fi, even though we already did that. So once we have that, then we'll move on to the GrovePi specific parts of this. Everything so far has just been getting Node-RED working on top of the GrovePi distribution, and now we have Node-RED. If you haven't seen Node-RED before, you can see that there's a bunch of different options over here. These are those Raspberry Pi specific nodes. Got a bunch of inputs, a bunch of outputs, and I won't go too far into this, but just to show that you can, drag something out there as an input, drag an output out, connect them by clicking and dragging, and you got to deploy to make anything work. And if you look at the debug, that's what this message payload debug thing is. And then this means you can click on it, or just basically, when I click, I insert a timestamp. So that's what Node-RED does. But in order to get GrovePi working, got to go into the menu and look at the Manage Palettes section. Under the Install tab, we can search for GrovePi, and you'll see that there are several of them. I have not tried them all, but this is the one here, Node-RED contrib GrovePi, that I've used. That's the first one that shows up. This tells you to sort of double check that you really want to install this, you trust it. It's been working fine for me. I think, this is sort of more information about it. You can look at the GitHub page for any node, get a sense of, whether it's being used or not, if been committed to, and you can also see here number of downloads. So, 200 downloads in the last month. This talks about installation using npm. This is actually old. You don't need to do that anymore. This install process does that for you. So this can take a little while, but it'll work in the background. So you can just play around with other things while you wait for that, and you should get a little pop-up message when it's done. So while that's going, I will just start creating this new sensor asset in FarmOS so that we can put that somewhere. So I have an account on this test instance. You will have to have your own FarmOS account for this to work. But if you don't have one, as this says here, you can just go to Farmier, and there's a free trial for, I think it's 30 days or something, and the beta price is only $50 a year, so it's pretty cheap if you want to set something up. So I'll just log in. And go under Assets, Sensors. This will show you all your existing sensors, and you can add a new sensor. I'll just call this Demo. And under Sensor Configuration, you want to select the type as a listener, and then this gives you the public key and private key, but what I actually do is go under the developer info, and that same info is in this URL. You can just copy this URL. I'll go back to Node-RED. It may have showed that install script while we were gone, so I'm just going to go back to manage palettes, and under nodes, instead of install, if we let's see. Yeah, so GrovePi is showing up as being installed, and it shows up as having 6 nodes that have come with it. And you'll see now that there's a new section here called GrovePi at the bottom, and we've got the analog, digital sensors. So this is the one that we're going to want to use. And if you double click, you get some configuration. This is just a one-time setup that you have to do to find the connected GrovePi board and add that. Now that's there, so you won't have to do that again. Sensor type, I think it's this 1.1. I can't remember. You'll get funny values if you pick the wrong one. Just double check here again. We're plugged into D7, so that's the one you want to hit. Select here, digital 7, and then I just move this up to like at least 3 seconds or something, because we don't need it every 1 second. Hit done, and then pipe this into our debug. Hit deploy. We should start seeing sensor data coming in every 3 seconds. So it looks right. These are temperatures in Celsius, so that's about right for my room here. And if I give this a little, and if I breathe on it, then that usually makes the humidity go up. There we go, 23. 28. So we've got sensor readings, and then if we want to get this going out to FarmOS, ironically it's actually not this under output. There is a HTTP response, but you don't want that one. You want under functions. You can actually search here to find them all. You want this function, the HTTP request function. So we can connect that to there, and double click on here. We want to make this a post request, and then just paste in the URL that we still had in our clipboard, and I believe that's all you need. Just hit done and deploy again. And just to make sure, yeah, this is every 15 to 30 seconds, but for right now, just for testing. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to say is if you don't save this, it won't exist, and so it won't have anywhere to push to. So that should be pushing here. So if we click on demo, here's our values, and this is what FarmOS does. It for every JSON object or key value pair, it just creates a new line. So these 3 are the first sensor reading, these 3 are the next sensor reading, and if we refresh, we should see a bunch more sensor readings. So since I don't want to just flood the server, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to go back in here and change this interval into 5 minutes. That should be enough. And then I'm actually also going to double click on this flow title and just disable it, because the demo's over. If you were actually using this, you wouldn't want to disable it, but that's cool little trick, so you can have flows that you've built and aren't running. So that's it. That's how you get sensor data from GrovePi set up like this, sitting on your desk or wherever you want to put it, somewhere more useful hopefully. No Ethernet required, just power, and sending over to Node-RED. You can do what you want with it. There's a lot more. You can play around with values, you can trigger things, so Node-RED's pretty powerful sort of middleware, and send it on to FarmOS to store it along with your other farm related data. So thanks a lot for your time, and I hope this was helpful. And now that I've got this video recording set up, hopefully I'll have some more videos coming in the future related to the farm Internet of Things work that I've been doing with the Goat project. Thanks a lot. Bye.